He asked me to sing at his wedding, and I said yes, while 7 months pregnant with his child. I stood under a chandelier the size of a small moon, 300 mouths ready to judge me, and I opened mine first. Here's the part nobody planned for. My song didn't bless his marriage. It ended it. My name is Margaret Williams. I'm not here to spit tabloid headlines or make myself a hero. I'm here to tell you how a regular woman with a decent voice and a lousy bank account ended up turning a luxury ceremony into a truth grenade. If it were you, what would you have done? Walk away and keep your pride clean, or walk in, take the money, and let the truth do what the truth does. Put your answer in your pocket for later, because by the end, you'll have more to say than you expect. I live in that kind of neighborhood where the mailboxes lean a little, and people still bring each other soup when they're sick. My apartment was small and clean, the couch a little sagged in the middle, the kitchen light a little loud when it hummed. On the fridge, I had a magnet that said 1 day at a time and a grocery list I kept rewriting as the money got tight. Eggs, bread, milk, diapers, with a question mark like maybe the baby could negotiate with destiny. At night, I'd rest my hand on my belly and tell the little one we were going to be fine, even if I didn't fully believe it yet. You know what I mean, the kind of promise you make out loud so you can practice believing it. I'm a singer, not a star, not a diva, just a working pair of lungs with a church upbringing and a stubborn streak. Restaurants, hotel lobbies, birthday parties where the aunties sing louder than you, and nobody's mad about it. I learned in a pew next to my grandmother, her hand tapping time on my knee, the smell of lemon oil and old hymnals floating in warm air. My voice isn't perfect. It's honest. There's a difference. People know when you're singing at them and when you're singing to them, and I always tried to do the second one. 2 weeks after a bright orange power notice slid under my door like a threat in fluorescent ink, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Margaret Williams, the singer?" A crisp voice asked, the kind of voice that alphabetizes its spices. "This is Patricia Monroe. I plan elite weddings and corporate events. We're booking a solo vocalist for November 15th at the Grand Pearl Hotel. 300 guests, live orchestra, a generous fee." She said the amount. 3,000. My baby kicked like she understood math. You ever hear a number and feel your whole body lean toward it? Rent power groceries, a small emergency cushion so you can stop waking up at 3 a.m. doing future arithmetic in the dark. "I'm interested," I said, working hard to keep my voice from giving away the fact that my fridge was auditioning for a minimalist lifestyle. "Perfect," she said. "I'll email the contract, dress code, and song list." 30 minutes later, I opened my old laptop, the one that sounds like it huffs and puffs before the home screen appears, and there it was. Wedding performance contract. Venue, Crystal Ballroom, the Grand Pearl Hotel. I scrolled, humming to myself, already picturing how Ave Maria would float up into those crystals and fall back down soft. And then the names hit me like a door I didn't see. Groom Richard Cole. Bride Claire Stevens. Yeah, that happened. Let me tell you what that name meant. Richard was the man I'd loved, the one who gave me a key and then took it back when I told him I was pregnant. He leaned in his chair like a boardroom banker and said, "You don't fit my world anymore. I need someone who understands where I'm going." I bit my lip and nodded like you do when you're trying not to break loud in front of someone who would enjoy the sound. I cried in a building's bathroom so the doorman wouldn't see. Then I went home and started counting eggs again. Now I was staring at a blue link making me his entertainment. I closed the laptop, opened it, closed it again, like the screen might change its mind if I approached from a different angle. I ran cold water, pressed my palms to my face, looked at the woman in the mirror. Tired eyes, ponytail, drugstore mascara smudged from the last time I pretended I was fine. I laughed a little, one of those laughs with no humor in it. And then I did what I always do when I'm knocked off center. I called my best friend. Vivian showed up with 2 bags of groceries, and a face that can read me like sheet music. "Okay," she said, setting the bags down. "What happened?" I told her. The money, the names, the humiliation I could feel in advance like a storm moving in over a leaky roof. She listened without interrupting, then said the last thing I expected to hear. "You should do it." I'm sorry what I said, blinking like the word yes came in a foreign language. "Go pick up your check," she said. "Go stand there with your head high and flip the script." "What script?" I asked, even though I knew. "The one where he gets to be the hero of the room and you're the charity case he hired for the irony," she said, hands on hips like a coach who has never lost faith in the team. "You're not there to be small, you're there to be undeniable. If it were you, would you have said yes? Be honest." Drop it in the comments because that question set me on a path I couldn't see the end of yet. That night, words started appearing in my head like water through a crack. You left me standing in the rain. Said I wasn't worth your name. But love stayed. I slid onto the bench of my old keyboard, found C, then F, then G, and a melody rose up like it had been waiting under my ribs the whole time. I sang quietly at first, like I was afraid of making the truth too real. Then I sang like I do in church when nobody's filming the kind of singing that leaves you a little shaky. I wrote a song. I called it "You Left Me But Love Stayed." It wasn't on the approved list. It wasn't elegant. It was honest. Patricia emailed back fast, polished, professional. She added one line that told me everything I needed to know and nothing I wanted to hear. Mr. Cole specifically asked for a female vocalist with raw emotional talent. Your demo was perfect for what he wanted. Raw emotional talent. His old compliment. His favorite phrase when I sang on his balcony with the city at my back. He knew. This wasn't an accident. He wanted me there on purpose. For what? To be a trophy of his indifference. To stand 3 feet from the life he declined and pretend I was fine. Maybe he wanted to prove to himself he could. Maybe he wanted to prove to everyone else he already had. Either way, it tasted like pennies. Rehearsal day came like time was pushing me down the hallway. I wore a simple black dress and flats because my body was doing double duty, one hand on my belly, the other gripping a folder with 2 sets of sheet music. The safe songs and the truth. The Grand Pearl was all marble floors and arrangements of white flowers taller than me, the kind of silence money buys, where the air itself seems to know not to be loud. Patricia met me in a navy blazer, tidy as a checklist kind, in the brisk way of people who never miss a deadline. "Margaret, I'm so glad you're here," she said, then led me to the crystal ballroom swinging the tall doors, like she was revealing a secret. There he was. Richard. He looked like a magazine ad. Suit that fit like it knew him, hair done with just enough effort to look effortless. For a split second, I caught a glimpse of the boy I knew. It was in the angle of his jaw or the way he shifted his weight. But then his expression settled into something smooth. He glanced my way, surprise flashed, and disappeared like a fish in deep water. "Ah," he said, voice smooth as glass, "the entertainment has arrived." Pattern interrupt. Not Margaret. Not even the singer. The entertainment. I took a breath, felt it reach all the way down where the baby pressed back like a reminder, then said in a voice I barely recognized as mine, "Hello. I'm Margaret Williams, the vocalist for your ceremony." Calm, professional, like we hadn't shared a kitchen table and a plan for a life once upon a time. That's when I saw the bride. Claire was all clean lines and soft light, the kind of beauty that looks like it came with instructions. She walked over, eyes flicking to my belly, and back to my face, her expression polite and guarded. "And you are," she started, and Richard cut in before I could answer. "She's the singer," he said. "She'll handle the sentimental parts." Claire's smile tightened a fraction. "We'd prefer elegant," she said, "nothing too personal." Of course, I said, lifting the approved list like a shield. The quartet tuned, the sound tech nodded, and we went to work. I sang through Ave Maria and the wedding song, and at last let my voice fill that room like a breath the building had been holding. When I finished, Patricia clapped, the sound bouncing off crystal. "Wonderful," she said, relief in her eyes. Richard walked closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, and said just loud enough for me to hear, "Your voice is still good. I'm glad you're able to work. I'm sure you need the money." I smiled, the kind of smile that looks like grace and feels like steel. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Cole. I'm very grateful." The way his jaw tightened told me he heard the message under the words. I gathered my folder and made for the doors. Heels clicked behind me and I turned. Claire stood there alone. Up close, the perfection looked a little human. Tiny worry lines, you can't powder away eyes that understood more than they wanted to. "Your voice," she said, "where did you train?" "Church," I said, "my grandmother taught me." She nodded slowly. "I can hear that the part that isn't for show." She hesitated, looked over her shoulder to make sure we were alone, then asked, "Can I ask you something? Do you think Richard is a good man? If it were you, what would you have said?" I had the truth sitting hot on my tongue. But the truth in the wrong place can burn everyone. Only you can answer that. I said, "Careful. I just met him today. As your singer." She searched my face like she recognized a familiar shadow. "Right," she said softly, "wedding nerves." She turned back to the room that was being built to match her dress. I watched her walk and felt something I didn't expect. Pity. The kind that arrives when you see doubt sitting quietly on someone's shoulder and realize you can't lift it for them. The week before the wedding, a garment bag appeared at my door, a midnight blue dress with long sleeves and a soft drape that understood a belly. I held it up to the window, and for a second I could see myself under those lights, not broken, not small, not an old story. Then my phone buzzed a reminder, and reality dropped back into place like a heavy curtain. That night, Vivian came over with takeout and a plan. She played Richard Wow. I practiced looking at him without looking through him. We laughed so we didn't cry, and cried so we could laugh again. Wedding day, November 15th. If you've ever walked into a room and felt like the room had already decided what you were worth, you know the tilt of it. The Grand Pearl was a magazine spread, 300 guests in clothes that came with their own insurance policy, white flowers everywhere, candles ready to be lit, as if romance could be engineered. The minister rehearsed his gentle smile in a corner. The quartet tuned their strings to a whisper. Patricia touched my elbow. 5 minutes, she said, the way nurses say it's time to push. I took my place near the mic, smoothed the blue fabric over my belly, and breathed in through my nose and out through my mouth like a YouTube video taught me. The doors opened, and the room rose as one. Claire appeared at the end of the aisle in a dress that understood drama. Her smile hovered just shy of her eyes. I sang Ave Maria, the vowels riding the air like a prayer that didn't know where it would land. I watched Richard watch her because I needed to know. He wasn't looking at her like love, he was looking at her like victory. Then the minister said, "Now the bride and groom will sign the marriage certificate, and our vocalist will perform." I stood. 2 folders waited in my bag. The safe choice. The true one. The pianist glanced up at me, eyebrows slightly raised, a question in the shape of a face. I walked to the mic. The baby kicked. The room settled into the kind of quiet that always comes before someone either tells the truth or tells a beautiful lie. Pattern interrupt. I changed the page. I didn't pick up. At last. I picked up my song. I leaned toward the pianist and whispered, "It's simple, follow the chart. CFG, watch me." He looked at my face and then at my belly, and something old and decent moved behind his eyes. He nodded, set his hands, and opened the door I needed. Richard glanced up from the certificate like I was a small delay on a big day. "Is there a problem?" he called, smile thin. "No problem," I said, hearing steel in my own voice. "I'd like to do something special." He flicked his hand like a king bored of a peasant. Fine, whatever. He had no idea. I closed my eyes and saw my kitchen table with its bills, my grandmother's hands turning a hymnal page, Vivian saying, "Flip the script." I opened my eyes and looked straight at the man who used to be my future, and now was just a man in a rented tux. Then I sang. "You left me standing in the rain, said I wasn't worth your name, but love stayed when you walked away. Love stayed. Love stayed." The first line hung in the air, like a question that had been waiting for an answer. Heads turned. The whispers started in little ripples that met and became a wave. I sang the second verse voice steady because it had work to do. You wanted gold, you wanted fame, threw away what had no price. A heart that loved without a game. A love that needed no disguise. Richard's color changed while I watched that tight smile coming apart stitch by stitch. He took a step forward. "Stop," he said louder. "Stop singing right now." The room flinched. The pianist kept playing. "Bless that man forever." Then the chorus, and I put my whole life in it. You left me, but love stayed. In the child I carry every day. You left me, but I'm not afraid. Because love stayed. Love stayed. Phones rose like a field of flowers turning toward the sun. Claire looked from my face to my belly, and then to Richard, and I saw the math land in her eyes like a stone. The noise in the room turned into a kind of listening. I reached the bridge and didn't hold back. I'm not singing this for pity. I'm not singing this for pain. I'm singing so the world can see that love is stronger than your shame. That line cracked whatever spell was left. Some people gasped. Some people cried. Someone in the back said, "Tell it, girl," because sometimes a ballroom turns into church when the truth walks in carrying a tune. Richard grabbed for the mic stand like he could wrench the narrative back with his hands. He couldn't. I finished. The last note hung, then fell. Silence. Not empty. Deciding. One clap, then another, then the wave. Claire turned to Richard, eyes bright and voice clean. "Is it hers?" she asked. "Is the baby hers? Is it yours?" He opened his mouth and closed it again, and that silence told every story he didn't want to be in. "You told me I was your first real love," she said, not yelling, just carving. "You lied." He snapped the mask fully off. "She was nothing," he said, "a girl from before." The room inhaled, and the sound that followed was the collective voice of 300 people realizing they had been watching a different movie than the one they paid for. Claire looked down at the paper in front of her, picked up the expensive pen, then dropped it on the floor like it burned. "I'm not signing this," she said, and turned, lifting the dress that cost more than my car, walking down the aisle the wrong way. Or the right way, depending on what you think vows are for. The room broke into noise, angry whispers, shocked laughs, the hiss of power leaving a person. Phones recorded. People judged. The minister backed away like a man vacuumed out of a scene. Patricia looked like she might faint. The quartet pretended to stack music as if protocol still existed. Then a man in his 60s stepped onto the stage with the calm of someone who has watched Rome burn before. "I'm Robert Harrison," he said, turning to the room, and then to me. I serve on the board at Coal Industries. Young lady, that was courage. Richard, we'll be convening an emergency meeting. Character matters if you want to lead anything in public. You could feel the floor tilt under Richard's feet. He pointed at me with a hand that shook, tried to speak, then stopped when voices from the crowd rose up. It's on you, take responsibility, don't you dare. For 1 second, I almost felt sorry for him. It passed. Is that fair, pulling a man's job into his personal behavior? Or is that exactly the point that leadership leaks into everything it touches? Tell me what you think, because the comments section is where ethics goes to work. Security appeared like they knew the choreography. Patricia hustled up the side stairs with an envelope and red-rimmed eyes. 3,000, she whispered, and Mr. Harrison said to add a bonus. She pressed a second envelope into my hand. I'm sorry for all of it. It's not your fault, I said, voice wobbly. She nodded and guided me to a side exit that smelled like stainless steel and bleach, the service corridor that handles the truth when the front door can't. Mini call to action right here. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. I made it home with a paycheck and a pulse. Before I could even kick off my shoes, Vivian grabbed my wrists. You need to see this, she said, holding up her phone. There I was, blue dress, belly mic, singing my whole life in 5 minutes. The caption read something dramatic, and for once I didn't hate it. People were already commenting in every language my high school never taught me. Courage. Beautiful. Necessary. Where can I stream the song? Are you okay? I sat on my couch and watched my private pain turn into public conversation, and for the first time in a long time, I felt less alone. By morning, my inbox looked like a scammer's dream and a dreamer's miracle. A talk show wanted me to tell the story in my own words. A venue in California offered 3 dates and proper pay. A producer named Diana Foster wrote a message that sounded like a person and not a press release. You have a voice people trust. I want to help you put it somewhere it can do work. We spoke by phone. I'm 7 months pregnant. I said I don't have a brand. I have stretch marks and a friend named Vivian who brings chicken salad when she can. Diana laughed softly. People are tired of brands. She said they want a person. On the other side of the city, a boardroom with glass walls and expensive coffee hosted a ritual as old as greed. I wasn't there, but later I heard enough to know the shape. Richard arrived ready to spin his life into a press release. He left with a box and a thin smile. They gave him a choice: resign with a package or be terminated with a paragraph about cause. He chose the door that didn't slam as loud, but the echo followed him anyway. Do you think that's justice or just optics? Both can be true. Go ahead and argue with me in the comments, because this is where the story gets complicated. The morning show was like stepping into a refrigerator full of lights. The host shook my hand in the green room and said, "If you need to stop, we stop." I told the story in the simple way a person tells the truth when they're tired of embroidery. "Why did you sing that song?" she asked. "Because silence was protecting a lie," I said, "and I couldn't carry both a baby and a secret that heavy." I turned to the camera. "Claire, if you see this, I'm sorry your day broke. I hope that break saved you years you can't get back." The audience made that sound people make when something lands in their own life. Diana booked a studio that didn't need to be cute because the microphones were good. I recorded You Left Me But Love Stayed in one afternoon, not because I'm a genius, but because when you've been rehearsing your survival in the shower for months, the take is ready. We decided to give the proceeds to a fund for single moms, because the first thing money should do when it finds you is turn around and help somebody else. My grandma would have clapped. I could hear it in my head. Life is messy even when the movie moments go your way. My body did its job and then some. I went into labor on a Tuesday at 2 a.m., and 14 hours later, a nurse smiled like she had a surprise behind her back. "Hope you like two of things," she said, and placed two warm, angry miracles on my chest. The ultrasound had missed one she'd been hiding in her sister's shadow, the way some people do in families. I named them Hope and Grace because those are the two things I learned to carry when everything else got taken. Twist number 2 for those of you keeping score. Yeah, that happened. The song landed on streaming and did something I didn't plan. It traveled. People sent messages from places I will never visit. A teacher in Ohio playing it before first period. A nurse in Nairobi sharing it with a patient who needed to cry and didn't know how a grandfather in Florida frying pancakes for a granddaughter whose mom left saying, "The chorus makes the kitchen feel like a promise." The internet can be a mess. It can be mercy, too. And that week, it wrapped me in more kindness than I knew what to do with. Not everyone loved me. Some people said I ruined a holy ceremony for attention. Some asked why I didn't warn the bride privately. Some said taking the check and then detonating the day was hypocrisy. These are fair questions. Here's my answer. I didn't go in with a plan to blow anything up. I went in to pay my bills. Then I watched a man who had done me cruel stand at an altar and try on a virtue he hadn't earned. My song wasn't revenge, it was refusal. A refusal to be the silent part of someone else's image. Do you think I went too far? Say it. Don't hold back because you think I'll break. I have already been broken and put back together in a pattern that's stronger than the old one. Marcus, the one friend of Richard's who looked at me like a person at rehearsal, texted me, said he was sorry, said he should have done more sooner, and I told him we're all learning on a moving train. The board hired a new CEO with a family photo on his LinkedIn and a safe smile. The press releases were clean. Life never is. I moved to a 2-bedroom with sunlight that shows dust and makes you happy about it. Vivian painted the nursery yellow. We hung a wooden sign with letters that didn't match because matching is for rooms that don't get messy. At 2 a.m., one baby in my arms and the other kicking against my ribs like a drummer. I watched my own video without sound and understood something I hadn't before. I didn't break that wedding. I just sang loud enough for the cracks to stop pretending they weren't there. 2 months later, still soft and still tired, I walked back onto a small stage with a mic that smelled like other people's songs and sang mine. The applause was a murmur kind and close. After a woman in the 3rd row said "me too" without standing up, and I nodded like we were passing water in a marathon. That's how this works. Courage is contagious, but it still needs rest. There's one more piece you might want to argue about. A typed letter arrived from a law firm with an address that sounds like old money and new furniture. It asked for a paternity test and proposed a visitation schedule upon confirmation. No apology, no human note, just paper. I called a legal clinic that works for free on Tuesdays. We did the test because my girls deserve facts even when they hurt. It said what my body already knew. Then I made a decision that will split this comment section in half. I agreed to supervised visitation once a month to start with a court order that if he misses 2, we pause for 6. Why? Because one day my daughters will ask me if I tried, and I want to be able to answer yes, even if the rest of the sentence is complicated. Do you think I should have cut him out completely? Tell me. And if you're going to come for me, come honest. Here's what all of this taught me in case you're here for more than the drama. Courage is not the chandelier moment. It's the quiet choice you make when nobody's filming. To fill out paperwork you don't want to fill, to turn off a phone that's trying to tell you who you are, to forgive yourself for believing someone else's small version of you. Dignity is not a dress you put on for a big room. It's the way you talk to yourself when you're alone making oatmeal at 6 a.m. with a baby on your hip. And truth. Truth is the one thing that gets heavier when you try to carry it by yourself, but lighter the minute you let it out of your mouth. Now I want to talk to two groups watching. If you're engaged and doubt keeps knocking like a polite guest that won't leave, don't confuse the size of the party with the solidity of the promise. Ask the hard questions now. If you could see your future self, would she thank you for signing or for not? And if you're in the service uniform for other people's perfect moments, the singer, the server, the florist, the planner, I see you. You notice everything. Your dignity isn't a tip. It's yours when you clock in and when you clock out. If an opportunity to tell the truth presents itself and you can do it safely, take it. If safety says wait, your silence is not cowardice, it's strategy. Surviving is a holy assignment too. The first royalty check arrived, and for a second, I just stared at it. Then I cried the kind of cry that cleans you out. We funded a diaper drive. We paid some rent for 3 moms in the neighborhood who were one notice away from a bad decision. We stocked a freezer at a shelter with casseroles and chicken nuggets, because nutrition is one thing, but sometimes comfort is the thing that keeps you from quitting. We did a concert in my grandma's church fellowship hall, folding chairs, terrible coffee people who drove across town to be reminded that telling the truth doesn't have to be fancy to be beautiful. I still think about Claire. Not in a haunted way, in a human way. I hope she found quiet and then laughter, and then someone who looks at her like she's a person, not a partnership. I still think about Richard sometimes too, because I'm not made of stone. I wonder if the crack in his armor will let any light in, or if he'll polish it until he can see nothing but himself. Not my job to fix it. My job is to raise 2 girls who know what love sounds like when it tells the truth. All right, your turn. Do you think I was right to sing my song in that room? Do you think the board was right to push him out? Or was that just companies protecting their image? Do you think supervised visits are mercy or a mistake? If it were you, what would you have done? At the mic, at the altar, in the boardroom, at the mailbox, with a letter from a law firm in your hand. Tell me where you're watching from. The third shift nurse on break, the teacher grading papers, the grandparent flipping pancakes at 6 a.m., the kid hiding under covers with earbuds while the house sleeps. Share this with someone who needs a nudge toward their own truth. And if you've got a story, the same, the opposite, the sideways version, put it in the comments. Somebody out there is sitting on a worn couch with a hand on their belly and a decision in front of them, and your words might be the courage they borrow. I'm Margaret. I sang the wrong song on purpose. The wedding ended, my life began, and love stayed.